memorized this deck of cards like 3 days ago. I've looked at it twice briefly, okay? Took me 10 minutes to memorize it. Memorized this one this morning. So I have 2 different decks of cards memorized. Took me 10 minutes. I haven't looked at it again. 10 minutes to go through this memorized. Whole memorization palace thing that I learned years ago. Not a magic trick. Kind of feels like magic, though.
Okay. 30.
Okay, let's see. That's going to be the 7 of diamonds.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Dude, give me another one. Give me another one. Sorry, I'm a little rusty.
10.
Number 10?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be 3 of diamonds.
Yeah.
You know what? I've always been proud of all 4 of my kids, like deeply proud of them. And, you know, when a kid comes into this world, obviously I have immediate love for him. But in my case, I had immediate pride for him as well because I was like, dude, you were my fastest swimmer. You were my strongest swimmer. Like you are Michael Phelps of all the swimmers that were out there. You made it. A lot of respect to those kids.
Gee, you're a champion.
What do you got for us, bro? Lay it on us.
Dude, I mean, we're just going through this whole Doughboy thing, and like, I guess we kind of did Doughboy without even knowing it was Doughboy at first. We started something like a long time ago, and then I just started getting into shape, going to the gym with you, and just kind of changing who I hung out with and like how I structured my life, and it's created some pretty profound changes that have helped me for the better. And that just came from like changing your lifestyle from like this soft kind of doughy figure that we talk about in the Doughboy to, you know, kind of more like a soldier in the trenches, you know, World War I. And so like I think for us right now is like there's a lot of misconceptions about masculinity going on in the world. Like what can we do as men to kind of square up those and challenge the new narratives that are coming?
Oh man, there's a lot to that question. So the first thing, you know, there's these various characteristics that define, in my opinion, what a man is, what masculinity looks like, and one of the most paramount things that is important for a male, a biological male, to become what we would call a man in society, is to think freely. Like you have to start thinking for yourself, and you have to recognize that everything around you is designed to program you in some way. And ultimately, you're never going to be exempt from that programming. We are, you know, products of our environment in a lot of ways. But what you do when you start to wake up and recognize that everything is designed in some form or fashion to program you into thinking a certain way is to be really, really conscientious about what kind of programming you pick. So you can't choose the consequences of the programming or the messaging that you listen to, because that's going to run its course. What we are basically, we are ultimately, everybody thinks they're free thinkers, everybody thinks they're their own individual or whatever else, but ultimately all of us, I believe, are the mathematical, if you could add up all the different inputs, you know, including the biological inputs, but all of the inputs, the programming, the conditioning, the teachings, what you've listened to, who you've surrounded yourself with, if you could accumulate all that, you would know exactly who you are. Like all of those things would tell you who you are. So you are the product of everything that's programmed you to this point. So one, that's just how it is. But the beautiful thing is that you can start to choose your own programming when you wake up to this. What is it that you want to be and what do you want to create? So as a man, you first have to define, if you want to be a man, you first have to define what is a man for yourself. Like look around and say, this is what a man looks like to me. This is what I want to be like. And then you start feeding yourself programming that fits into that, right? So you don't listen to crap that's going to distract you from that. You don't listen to stuff that's going to give you a different type of message. And you're like, okay, I want to be better in fitness. I want to be healthier. I want to lose weight, for example. I think as a man, you have to be dangerous, and I think you have to be a warrior on some level. You have to be physically adept and efficient. So you're going to listen to podcasts that talk about nutrition and the value of nutrition. You're going to read books on fitness. You're going to put yourself perpetually in a place where you're receiving programming that is going to direct you and going to be the software you're going to operate on that's going to create those types of changes.
I had ChatGPT, by the way, research you. So this is all like researching your page and looking at your content. So I
haven't done this, so this is new.
So this is it says, you've discussed the importance of personal responsibility for men. How can young men cultivate this in an era of distractions? That's difficult, man.
So it's not super difficult to conceptualize. It's difficult to do. So the first thing, again, like we just talked about, is as a young man, you have to identify what you want to become. if you don't know where you're going, you're going to be lost. You're going to take a lot of side roads. You're not even going to be on a road that's going to lead you where you don't know where you're going to go. So there's no like arrival point for you to get to. So the first thing young men have to do, and this is why it's so important, for example, to have fathers in the homes, is they have to have a good role model. This is what a man looks like. This is what I want to become. These are the characteristics and qualities I want to have myself. So you got to have that first in your mind so that all these other distractions are just that. They're just distractions. Now, you can still get distracted with a goal in mind. So that's where you have to really focus yourself on that. Say, this is a real clear identity of what you want to become, and then a strategy to implement that's going to help you to arrive at that point. And that's where we're talking about the programming stuff. So as a young man, you say, okay, what is it that you want to be? Well, I want to be a great provider. I want to be in great shape. I want to live a vibrant life. I want great relationships. I want whatever those things are that you look at to men that have succeeded, and I want to be more like that. Now you surround yourself as much as you can with those types of people, or at least with other young men that are on that same journey. And if you don't have direct mentors in your life, like you don't have a great father, or you don't have a great coach, or you don't have whatever that is that you can emulate and look at, that's where you're going to go online and you're going to find people that you respect, and you're going to listen to their content. You're going to, get so much of that programming from the sources of guys, men, that you want to be more like. And that will help mitigate those distractions, because again, the programming runs, we're biological technology. Whatever is going on in this life, we're operating through this conscious state using biological technology to have this experience that we're having right now. For whatever the purposes are, that's above my pay grade. I don't understand. I've got my ideas on what I think we're doing down here, but they're literally just my own opinions. But you are a computer, you are technology. So when you can recognize that, the beautiful thing is you're going to operate on programming either way, but now you can choose what programming you want to operate on. Mm-hmm. And once you put that programming in, and once you install it the right way, it runs its course. So you're no longer trying to make changes happen. They happen naturally.
You're just running your system.
Exactly. So you have to be so conscientious about what software you're putting in your fucking head. If you're not, you're going to get all kinds of nefarious viruses, for example, that are going to get inserted into your head from forces, powers that be, that hate you and want to keep you down. We're seeing that right now in society with everything that's going on. All the bullshit with the food pyramid, all the bullshit with the healthcare system, all the bullshit with politics and mainstream media and all this stuff. It's all of these viruses they're trying to inject. I call them viruses because they're designed to hurt you and harm you, not to level you up and bit. So there's good programming, and then there's viruses. And all of us have viruses inside of us that have been inserted there by bad parenting, by bad influences, by bad content. The school system, whatever it is, we're being inserted all the time with these viruses. When you wake up to that, you'll start to recognize those viruses more quickly, so you can dismiss them, not let them get embedded into the programming. And then you constantly are adding the layers of programming that you need to add to get to the goal that you want to get to.
I kind of like vibe with that concept super hard, just because like I dealt with it. Like I had a dad growing up, but like he had some mental stuff. He didn't learn how to jive with me super well. We didn't have many interests that were the same. Maybe video games is like one of the only ones. But like I had to go around to like my young men's leaders at church, or like my coaches in rugby and football, and like my neighbors who are men who like acted like men. And I learned how to become a man from those around me and not from my dad. And so like there's guys out there that use that excuse. You don't have to. Go find somebody to like mentor you. Go find somebody to look up to and have an example. It's not that hard, and you don't have to be like, "Hey, will you be my mentor?" Like just hang out with them, start talking with them. So that's how I learned. And I think a lot of people just don't have the gumption to go out and get it done sometimes, but it's just the society that's telling men that they're weak and they deserve to be and that they need to be. And it's not true. We're not that way. I've lost a ton of weight by implementing systems, learning how to eat right, learning how to limit my eating better things. I think it's important to develop these systems younger and younger, and what we're doing here is going to really do that for young guys.
So the issue that you're bringing up is super, super important. It's going to lead me to the second point of what you need to do to level up as a man. The issue that you bring up is that there is a complete absence in society, almost complete absence in society, of actually mentoring boys and becoming men. It's almost non-existent. The only thing that I can really think of that still kind of stands as a societal structure to help that process is sports and maybe military service. Those two things are where you can see boys really get into something that's going to level them up and make them more masculine. But for the most part, nobody's talking to anybody about this. My dad didn't talk to me about this. My dad was a great dad. He set a good example in a lot of ways, but he didn't mentor me in terms of sitting down and like explaining to me these types of concepts that are super important, probably because he just didn't understand them and he was busy. And it's easy when you're in that parent mode to like lose focus on what's most important, which is, in my opinion, raising the next generation, particularly your own. So the next step from the first step, obviously, is to identify what is it that you want to become and then add the programming that you need to add that's going to get you there. The next step is to remember this always is extreme ownership. You are responsible for everything that happens in your life. That doesn't mean every single event, because there's things that are going to happen you have no control over, but your response and how you interpret that. So do you let an event become an excuse? Do you let it be a reason why you're a victim, why you can't do X, Y, and Z? Or do you allow that event to be a teaching opportunity for you to learn and develop and become better, bigger, faster, stronger? It's all about how you interpret. Events, circumstances actually aren't what matter in life at all, other than that they give you a catalyst to choose one path or another. That's what events are. All they are, like crossroads in your mortal journey. Okay, so this happened to me. You know what? I got cut from the basketball team in high school. I can go around feeling like I'm a failure and I'm a loser and that I'd have no business playing basketball because I couldn't even make the high school basketball team. Or you say, what? I'm better than that. I'm better than all this bullshit. You get to work, you use it as fuel for your fire, dude, to level up and suddenly become the GOAT, the greatest basketball player of all time. You know, Michael Jordan, you are the man. So he didn't let that define him in a negative way. He let that define him in a positive, constructive way. And so it is truly extreme ownership. And anybody who's telling you that you have an excuse to not do X, Y, and Z, particularly yourself telling you that, that's virus programming. That's a virus. That's a destructive way of thinking, no matter how good the excuses are. And here's the thing with excuses. Excuses are always packaged so well, right? They're so easy to justify. Oh, well, I deserve to feel this way because this happened to me. But you have to ask yourself, is that going to help you? No matter how satisfying it is on that carnal level of a man to be like, give yourself justification and to blame somebody else for your failures or blame somebody else for your circumstances in your life. No matter how well packaged that is, it will never, ever serve you. Negativity will never make you better, ever, no matter how beautifully packaged it is. So it's really defining these events that happen in our lives, things often that we don't have control over, in a constructive, positive way. Extreme Ownership, which is a great book you should read by Jocko, by the way.
I love that. I love that. And like, I'm just going to call my own self out. This morning, I had a dub. Mm-hmm. And then I came in here and I started making excuses about why this equipment wasn't working. And it's because it wasn't the brand that I love.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Canon.
And then you had the Wiz just saying like, I told you so, man. I told you so.
I'm sitting here like, here we go. Love you, Wiz. But dude, no, like I created some negative energy out of some bullshit, and it didn't need to be that way. Like I'm feeling great now. But it's just people do this all the time, and I've had conversations with my sister like 2 times in the last week, where like every single time something would come up that was a little bit resistance for her, there was an excuse made, and every time I heard it, it was like, no. That's not a reason. You cannot use excuses around me anymore. And I'm going to call them out no matter what. And she has started using them less and less and less. And so like as friends, like you do this with me all the time and you're one of my best homies. You call me out on my bullshit. Like if something has happened in my life and you're like, yo, I noticed you're not doing this, this, and this, and you should be. Like do that. Like that is healthy. And that's part of being a man and taking ownership is being there for your friends.
So this is good because you have young guys coming up right now that are in desperate need of mentorship, and there's a lack of it. And that's why we're creating the content that we're creating at Doughboy. That's the entire mission of Doughboy, not just for young men, but for older men too, because you have older men who didn't get the right programming and teachings and whatever else in their youth. So they roll into this system that's hostile to them. One, the messaging is that men are bad. So everything about you as a man is bad. Then you're told basically to be harmless and be a glorified lapdog for your wife and for your family. And I'm a family man, so I believe in taking responsibility for your family and for your significant other. I think that's a sacred responsibility, but it can't come at the expense of you being a man, because for you to be an effective father, for you to be an effective husband, for you to be effective at anything that you need to be in life, you first have to be an effective man. So your primary responsibility in this life is to level yourself up and be the best version of yourself. That comes before anything else. So anything in your life that is trying to condition you otherwise, even if that's coming from a wife, which often is the case because women, I'm not blaming women, but they get really toxic programming as well on the other side of the spectrum. So it's this bad combination. You have men right now that are stuck in dead-end marriages. They're not happy. The wife's not happy. They're just stuck there because of circumstances. Or they've been already ravaged by divorce and they're just like limping along, paying for somebody else to live. And then you've stacked on a bunch of kids and you're at a dead end job and you got guys just being like, dude, I'm going to do this until I fucking die. And that to me is what quiet desperation is. These men that are living in this state. So how do you change that when you've already dug this rabbit hole on bad programming? We've already talked about rewriting your programming and changing the framework with which you work through. But the good news is that you really can change your circumstances. Now, it's not going to be overnight. I can't stress this enough. There's no easy solution to this, but there is a simple one. You change the way that you think. Well, that sounds so complicated. You change your programming. You change the influences in your life. It naturally changes the way you think. And it's just like Jordan Peterson talks about. It's like, can you make your life better? Sure. You can wake up tomorrow and make it 1% better. You could do that. Anybody can do that. You wake up tomorrow and you say, okay, I'm going to make my bed. That's the analogy or the metaphor that Jordan Peterson uses where you start to organize your life a little bit. I'm going to make my bed this morning. That's 1%, 0.5% better than how you performed yesterday or whatever. It's fairly insignificant. But you stack enough of those. You start making these small incremental changes in your day. You have to be focused. You got to be listening to programming. You start to make those changes and suddenly your world starts to change. And you wake up 5 years later and you're like, dude, look how far I've come. That guy 5 years ago, that guy a year ago, 6 months ago, I don't even know who that guy is. It's almost like a different character and a different story because I've changed so many little things bit by bit. I've changed so many little things. And this is an important thing to remember as a man. Nobody is going to respect you unless you respect yourself. Nobody is. Nobody. Your wife, your kids, nobody will respect you. People might like you. People might have fun hanging out with you, but you will get no respect as a man unless you respect yourself. The only way that you respect yourself that I know of is by keeping commitments to yourself.
Yes.
It's the only way I know how to respect yourself because it's the only way you trust yourself. Too often we make commitments to ourselves. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then we don't do it. And then guess what happens? We constantly are losing self-respect.
We feel like shit.
We feel like shit. Nobody else respects us. Now, people are going to say, well, man, this is great. This sounds good, but I don't feel it. Like people are waiting around for this magical feeling of motivation to make those changes, right? Because it is hard when you are in a low energy state, when you're in a state of depression, a state of anxiety, which so many are, to have even the willpower to fight your way back up to the surface. Even generating that can be intensely difficult for people to do when they're already in a bad place, when they're already deep down in that rabbit hole. So here's what I would suggest. This is part of the leveling up process to become a man is, and it's what you talked about a little bit ago, you have to orchestrate your day, plan your day in a way that you're going to win. Because if you're not planning to win each day, by default, you're planning to lose. It's just how it is. If you are not putting together a strategy to win, you're going to lose. Think about it in any other aspect of life. If you don't have a good business strategy, you're going to lose. If you don't have a good strategy to go play that next game, you're going to lose. If you don't have a strategy for your relationship with your wife, you're going to lose. You can go on and on. If you don't have a strategy to be a good father and teach your kids how to be good people, you're going to lose. So you have to orchestrate your day in a way that stacks wins. And the best way to do that is the first thing in the morning. So get up early enough, whatever that looks like for you, where you can start stacking some wins and you can change that energy, that lack of motivation, that depression, that anxiety, whatever it is. Most of us, myself included, I wake up every morning, and the older that I've gotten, the worse it has gotten. I wake up every morning and I feel behind the power curve. Whatever time I wake up, the first thing usually when I roll out of bed is I'm like, dude, oh man, I got a whole day ahead of me. I got all these responsibilities. I got my ass kicked yesterday. I got to fix what happened yesterday. I got like all this pressure I wake up to. It's like the day welcomes you with this backpack full of fucking bricks. And we talk about this all the time. You got bricks stacked there, and your job as a man is to put those bricks on and carry them up to your proverbial mountain. So how do you do that in a way that's going to be constructive so you're not just feeling like you're like a beast of burden or livestock just going through the motions? You get up in the morning and you change that state. Tony Robbins talks a lot about this. You get up in the morning and you change your state. How do you do that? For me, it's stacking those wins. Like I just said, the first thing I do is I meditate. When I get up in the morning, I go down to my office. I'm the only one up. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. It's dark outside. I turn on some meditative music. I get myself, comfortable sitting there, letting all of the negativity that I woke up with just kind of dissipate through this meditative process. And then that rolls into me reading constructive things. Like right after I get done with meditation, I'm going into reading. So I'm reading my scriptures. I have like 3 or 4 books right now that I'm working through. So I'll read from different passages from those books. And then I write in my journal. I write down my insights from those passages so I can help retain it better. Then I'm getting my kids up out of bed. I'm getting breakfast ready, healthy breakfast for them. I've got an hour to hour and 15 minutes with my kids in the morning where I'm talking to them about the things that I've just learned this morning in a way that they can appreciate it, right? Because I'm reading adult books, that are for men. And then I'm getting out the door with my kids and I'm taking them to school and I'm having them memorize scriptures on the way to school.
That's
so
badass,
I think my
bro.
kids can rattle off all kinds of scriptures and we've got a motto that they memorize. So that gives me a win too. Now I've won not only in my personal development, I've changed my energy. I'm feeling a lot more positive and optimistic about the day. I've inserted programming and software into my head now that I'm running on. And now I've got a big win with my kids because I spent quality time with them. We weren't rushed. I could talk to them. I made them a good breakfast. Now we're out the door. They're going off to school ready to kick ass because we've gone through our whole motto and our mantras and stuff like that. The kids are ready to go. Then I go to the gym. And now I'm leveling myself up physically and I'm listening to podcasts. I rarely listen to music now at the gym so that I can continue to add to my programming. Because even though I may not always remember all the programming that I listen to, none of us do, or even a fraction of it, all of that gets buried somewhere in your software, in your psyche, and it's going to run its course. And so stacking wins early in the morning, and everybody can do this. And it's not, again, something that you're going to do overnight. You're going to make incremental changes. But by making those commitments to make small wins for yourself in the morning, get up half an hour earlier than you normally do so you can execute on a couple of things that give you wins, those things start to stack and they start to make long-term changes in your life. And everybody can do this. Everybody can do this. This is the beautiful thing about life is whatever God has given us in this life, what he has for sure given us, I don't know everything, but he has given us the opportunity to create our own reality. He's given us that. And you create that by making your daily decisions. The culmination of your daily decisions is going to create your reality. The culmination of how you interpret things is going to determine your reality, which will determine your destiny and everything else in between.